Thank you for joining today's AMA session about content design and career in tech. I will be answering all of your questions and sharing insights about my career journey in content design. Now, this Ask Me Anything is part of a series happening this week where designers across different disciplines and different companies are going live to fundraise for LA's wildfire recovery efforts. Huge kudos to all the designers and the event organizers for making this happen. We'll keep this about 30 minutes. I'll be answering live questions, but I also have gathered a few questions from people who cannot make to the session today. So if I don't see any of the questions, I'm going to just start from the questions that I have. Disclaimer, this is my first time using a streaming software, so I'm like pretty new and intimidated by it. Let's get started. The first question I had was coming from someone on YouTube. For context, a little while ago, I made a video about why I stopped making YouTube videos. One of the reasons is because I had my very first career burnout. And one of the big lessons I learned from my experience through that is that it's really important for me as an individual, not advice to everyone, to learn how to detach myself from work. So one of the questions I got was, how are you trying to detach yourself from work these days? I've been making a lot of very conscious efforts to set boundaries. Um, and I have been doing that in the past few years. Like I will shut off my laptop by 5:30. I will try not to look at my phone or my emails after certain hours or during the weekends. um, I think another part of it is looking for hobbies and things outside of the work to keep me occupied. Obviously, I do have a YouTube channel and other social followings for content design. So a lot of times I am thinking about content design topics, but I think the nature of it is slightly different from, let's say, something like doing the actual work versus trying to get others towards the discipline, if that even makes sense. Let's see, what are some of the hobbies I picked up? I started taking dance classes last year, and I thought it was really helpful, and my therapist approved that too. I started taking lessons, no specific genre. It's just a great way for me to shut off my brain, not care about anybody's perceptions because I'm so focused and trying to keep up with the steps. Let's see what else. I take hip hop, K-pop dance lessons. I take jazz dance class sometimes. I did a 4-week series where I showed up every Saturday for 2 hours trying to learn a longer piece of choreography. And at the end of the class, you get a little music video from that. And I wore more pink than I ever have during that time. So there's that. Let's see. I also try to remind myself that, like rest is a productive thing. And that was a really difficult lesson for me to come to terms with, especially given my background, being an East Asian female. There's a lot about like the shame of laziness or the shame of doing nothing. But I really believe that doing nothing is productive and listening to your body is something really important. It makes me, I think I do better work when I have gotten ample amount of rest prior. So, understanding what is that perfect duration for me to actually turn off and stop thinking about work. That was a really big part of it. And then just consistent reminder that I am someone beyond my job. I am more than a content designer. I'm a human being. I have hobbies, I have families, I have friends, I have personalities. These have always all been pretty helpful for me to detach myself from work. But, you know, I'm still working on it. I'm still not perfect. There are still times where I'm like, oh my God, the anxiety of like, why am I not doing anything? Or trying to catch myself before going, oh, hey, I'm Yvonne. And then immediately going, I'm a content designer, like start changing my narratives around how I introduce myself has been pretty helpful too. I'm going to put this question on the screen. That's all in all caps. For those of you who don't know, Hang is one of the organizers who has kindly invited me to this really great live stream initiative. And also kind of kicking my butt to make more YouTube videos. The United States is trying to ban, and it's like rapidly happening. Um, they're trying to ban TikTok, which is an app that a lot of people love, and I'm on that app as well. So in retaliation and frustration towards companies like Meta, people are downloading a very much Chinese-made for Chinese people app called Xiaohongshu, or if you have heard the English translation, I think RedNote. It's a very fascinating phenomenon, and I did make a short TikTok reel about it, about the phenomenon of how UX principles are pretty different from the global West versus the global East, where Asian apps tend to be more feature rich versus like American apps are more minimalistic. Chinese app are very much like, here is everything and go figure. So I think it made me think a lot about philosophies when it comes to what I have been taught when it comes to UX practices, and how at the end of the day, if the product is good, people are going to learn. But it's really fascinating to witness this piece of history happening and unfolding in real life. A lot of people are taking up on this experience or this cultural phenomenon too, with like Duolingo tweeting, oh, so now you want to learn Mandarin. Oh, I forgot, there's a part of question of, do you have Xiaohongshu account? I don't. From my personal experience, the Chinese netizens can be pretty mean, which is why I don't really have social media channels on Chinese social media. Um, uh, there are personal stories that is like not safe to share on this live stream, so I won't go into too much details on that. But like, it's kind of traumatizing. Okay, I have another pre-submitted question, and the question is, I'm gonna read it. If you weren't in content design, what would you be doing? See, this is what happens when I didn't like prepare. If I had like the fact that I had questions ahead of time, I really should have been a little more prepped in coming up with the perfect answers. But I think, well, I'll be more authentic that I did not prep to answer these questions. So if I'm not in content design, well, okay, it really depends on a very key component that's really close to me, which is visa status. If I am not worried about visa, I'm probably not working right now, focusing a lot more on social media, traveling, and I, like, it's kind of cliche, but a lot of people say that they would love to try working at a boba shop or something like that. Like, I love boba. It's kind of bad um, for me, but I would love to try doing jobs like that where I get to build community with like people in my neighborhood, showing up and make drinks. But obviously, I'm probably over glamorizing that. But if I have the visa constraints, which I do, and this is my reality, I think I will probably be strategic about where I can possibly get a work visa, how that's relevant to my degree, because I cannot be making career switches or jumps that's too far off from what my degree is all about. I'll probably be in marketing. I think I'll be in social media marketing. Obviously, like I like doing that. I do that for myself too. So I'll probably be doing that. I'll try, and which is kind of part of my career story earlier on too. I started off doing a lot of marketing things after graduating from film school, because there's no way for someone who's visa dependent like me finding a film related job in the United States, which is why I went to grad school. I wanted to shift my focus a little and be more realistic. Um, from my a lot of networking talks with people in marketing, they always tell me that to get my foot in the door, I need to be in agency. So I probably be in agency right now in hopes that I can prep myself enough so that I can eventually be in tech again. not because I love tech, but because tech companies have a lot more resources when it comes to visa sponsorships and related things like that. So I'm trying to stay in this country. So I gotta be realistic. So I I think that's what I would be doing. Bear with me. I'm just gonna check the comments real quick. The shame of laziness is so real. Yeah, it is real. And it's surprisingly a thing that's consistent through all kinds of cultures. And, like the art of doing nothing, taking a pause. I think it's just so helpful for us to refocus on what's important ahead. And, self care is important. I hope you're going to take some time and take care of yourself this weekend too. I know I will. Thanks for asking so many good questions. So we have this question. Can you talk about the current impact of AI on content design, as well as where AI versus content design is likely headed in the coming years? Really great question. I think there are two school of thoughts emerging within the content design community. One part is like, oh no, we're all going to be replaced. And the other school of thoughts is like, hooray, we finally don't have to write error messages anymore. um, at one point in my career, I had to write 45 error messages. And how I handled it was like, one of my software engineer friends at work was like, hey, like, we don't know how to write error messages and it's been really, really bad. Here's a spreadsheet of all the potential reasons I think why these errors are happening. Can you just fill in the words? And so there's there's that, and that was not fun. As much as I love the output of content design, I think our discipline really shines in the strategic value behind the experience. I am in the school of thought where I am not fearful of AI. One part is we're still at a phase where, with the large language models, it's really easy to tell when something is AI written versus not. I love joking about it with friends. Like, if you see the word ensure, if you see bullet points with a lot of emojis, there's a good chance that those are written by AI. But AI is rapidly moving forward, and I've been seeing a lot more job openings with the integration of AI and content design, which I think is a really good sign, because at the end of the day, AI needs good content to produce good results. And who's going to produce the good content? Content designers. There are no better people who can do that than content designers. We think in such a systematic way, such a strategic way. We think about content in components almost, moving through the digital experience. So I'm not worried. I think, if anything, this is going to unlock a new chapter of how content design can really shine in the design discipline. No longer the one who's just producing strings all the time. Because as much as I enjoy doing that, that's not where I shine the most. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. But I can see a lot more, AI and content design overlap type of roles opening up in the next few years. The fact that a lot of tech companies are panicking and trying to add AI integration into their applications or websites, it means that there's going to be a new set of opportunities, and hopes and great things to come for content design. I'm very optimistic, but I'm also still realistic that the job market for just UX overall has not been great. I entered the field really early, where I had no portfolio, and I was able to get a job with doing a 15-day UX writing challenge and presenting that and combining some of my past like marketing experience. And these days, even internships require portfolio, even if it's just school projects. So the bar is a lot higher. But we'll see how things unfold, but I'm pretty optimistic about it. This question over here. This is a basic one. No questions are basic. But I'm wondering how you see content design and UX writing and copywriters work together, or are they the same? So I think that's a really, really good question, and I tried to think about it a lot more recently as well. Um, you know how you go on a new website and then, the experience is great, you downloaded it, and then you run into a problem. So you go to like the support, help support articles, and all of a sudden it's just block of words, really difficult to understand. I'm starting to see content as more of a journey throughout the user experience, and that comes modular, modular or systematically, not just with the app experience itself, but also things that are outside of the app experience. How is the email being helpful to the users? How is the help articles being helpful? And if you have fragmented experience throughout, where your email is off brand, your email is not being helpful, or your support article is so outdated, it's still not a good user experience overall. So I think, larger companies establish a lot of content guidelines, where they establish the tone, the voice, terminologies. How do we describe this thing versus the other? When do we use sign in or do we use login? Things like this. Um, I work closely with a lot of product marketing people. Part of it is, they want to push out features for so that more people can see, and another part is to encourage people to try these new features. So part of that is also working with, my job. Part of my job is also working with these product marketing managers, so that we can both have a consistent language when it comes to user facing content. And I can help with keeping things simple and easy to understand, and marketing people can help inciting people to get to the new experience. I can see content design, UX writing, copywriters, marketing, support content, technical writers all working together with a systematic approach to content overall. Um, I think I was listening to a podcast recently that mentions that, like, content at the end of the day is what people are here for. If I have a banking app and I'm here on the app, then I have an intention of checking on the content, whether that's the balance, how much I'm making, and things like that. Um, but if I'm running into trouble and then the support article is not being helpful, or if I'm getting an email with things that I don't truly understand or sounding really off brand compared to the app experience, it's going to be confusing. It's not going to be consistent. So I think I think that's how I can see content design evolve, becoming a more strategic partner overseeing multiple touch points of the content throughout a user journey. The lighting situation in Seattle like makes it really difficult for filming. Um, just I would say just 20 minutes ago there was sun coming in, and I was like so ready to make a joke about like welcome to sunny Seattle, and then like it's gone. It's gone. Really good question. Okay. How can content designers position themselves to take on more content leadership, to take on more leadership roles? Or asked differently, how can we get more content talent influencing at the highest level? Oh, that's a really great question. And that's a hard question. I think I'm still struggling with that aspect. I think for the past, 5+ years of me being in design, me being in content design, I still find myself doing a lot of the influencing work, where I'm trying to get myself added to a calendar invite that I was left behind, or trying to explain to a PM that um, generating a string that they want doesn't just take 5 minutes. It's never easy. It's never quick. Um, so I think the similar struggle still kind of exists, where a lot of content designers feel undervalued. And then, similarly, we're not seeing a ton of content related people in leadership positions. Now, I don't have leadership experience just yet, even though I observe a lot of leaders. But I think from a content designer perspective, so I'm talking about, individual contributors like me, um, to go from trying so hard to talk about why my work is important to be in a position where you are respected, you are uh, having that strong influence. It comes down to what we're very good at, which is talk in the language that the user or the people will understand. I'll elaborate a little on that. I think for PMs, well, what I have found to be the most helpful is to show data, is to talk in terms where PMs will understand, and bridging that into the discipline of content design. The, there's no point in talking about tone and voice and consistency and parallel construction to PMs, but it will stick when you talk about conversion rates. It will stick when you talk about attritions and things like that. Mm, so I think putting yourself in the shoes of PMs, think about it on a business level, has been really truly helpful for me to not only do my work and let my work speak for myself, but also give it a gentle nudge when you have partners who are not able to see your influence the way you want them to see. So similarly with software engineers, how can you think about it in a systematic way that really solves a lot of their pain points? Um, for the example of the 40 plus error messages I was mentioning earlier, um, what I ended up doing to solve that was I asked the software engineer. I built that into a little spreadsheet, and I was like, okay, for these 40 error messages, if you can tell me what happened, why it happened, and how might someone resolve this, is going to make it so much easier for me to generate the output of that. And it really it shed a lot of light on the systematic approach to error messages and the content strategy I had going into it for the software engineer. And I did make them do a little bit of work, and there were places where the software engineer was like, oh my god, I don't know how to solve it, or I don't really know how to explain to users in a way that they can understand why this error message was even happening. And I think that was, like humbling experience for them to truly understand the impact that content designers have. And I think, on the flip side, I do know that there are a lot of content designers um, struggling with that piece of influence in the workplace. And I have reached the point in my career where I'm just not even gonna encourage bad behaviors anymore. If you're a good partner, you get my good work, and if you are not a good partner, I think your work will suffer, and then you'll come back to me. And I hope the new year, as the new year begins, we can all have a little more courage to not be as collaborative. Is this controversial? I feel like I said something really controversial. It's okay. Next question. Also, like, we're kind of running out of time, but I'm happy to answer more questions. Can you talk about cultural context with copy, like how you adapt from not just different languages, but different slangs and ways of speaking and writing? Yeah, of course. So for larger tech companies with a little more resources, you'll have a designated localization team that think about content copy from beyond a translation standpoint, thinking about culture perspectives, thinking about even like labor relationships and how certain copy might be perceived in a different culture. So when you do have a localization team, is such a great treat. I love our localization partners, and I learn so much from them. um, I'm going to talk about an example about emojis. I worked on the emoji guidelines for where I work right now. I can't talk too much about it because I'm not allowed to, but if you dig a little on LinkedIn, you'll find it. And even that's going to change real soon. But uh, from learning about emojis, like I've been living in such like um, American context when it comes to emoji, but when I chat with my friends in China, emojis have like slightly different cultural connotations to it. Like the smiley face can be really passive aggressive towards the Chinese audience. So we still have elderly people use the smiley face when they're using WeChat, and then all the young people gets freaked out and they're like, "Oh my god, you're being so passive aggressive." And I learned that there were a lot of emojis that were not appropriate for certain markets because of a variety of different reasons that I have never thought about. And without the localization team, I would have never been able to brainstorm with them and try to think of um, different emojis to replace instead. And once we've established that, they can generate a process during, I guess, the string generation process that how can I say it? During the generation process, it can be automatically replaced. So my US English copy with certain emojis can be replaced in a different way so that it fits the other market. Um, and similarly, like when it comes to culture, we can also talk a little bit about accessibility. And one thing with emoji is it can get really, really freaking annoying when you overuse them. One of the example is like if you have a celebratory email congratulating someone that they have finished the course. You just finished the course, and you add like 3 hand clapping emoji on a screen reader. It's going to say uh, congratulations on finishing the course, clapping emoji, clapping emoji, clapping emoji. And imagine having to navigate through digital experience like that on a daily basis. That is so freaking annoying. There's also levels of trust when it comes to emoji. For certain markets, emoji will be really exciting, really appropriate, like an email header. But for other like transactional uh, transactional content, or even things that are very sensitive to people like money, if you tell someone, oh, you have a low balance, and you pair that with a sad emoji or like a wallet flying away emoji, it's gonna instill a lot of shame, mistrust to the user journey. So um, I love our localization team. I'm not an expert on it. I'm still learning a lot, but content designers do think about cultural context a lot. And at the end of the day, even if you're not thinking about culture context, you still have to think about how much your string can be expanded once you have translated that. And character sizes are different, like English letters, except I think for M, are all like half size characters versus like Chinese, Korean. These characters are full size characters. So even though it translates as 4, it's going to take 8 spaces in equivalence to English letters. So stuff like that. Um, I saw some inappropriate emojis just now, but I hope that's helpful. I love our localization partners. They're truly, truly helpful. And at my workplace, we have a localization query sheet where you can input your questions. Hey, I'm trying to name this feature this thing, or I'm trying to debate through a few different phrases. Which one will translate better, and which one is gonna not have direct translation or become way too long? Like recently, I learned that the word customization and personalization are the same word in a lot of European languages, even though customization versus personalization have a subtle undertone differences, where customization feels more um, me doing the thing versus personalization is the app doing the thing for me. I have a question here. Do you have a research process that you use to better understand the language of your users and stakeholders? I don't right now, which I was really hoping to push through that for my workplace, but under content designers are really understaffed in a lot of places, so we have dreams and hopes that don't get achieved sometimes. One of the things that I'm really trying to push for is definitely research when it comes to content design, and I think it comes from a selfish reason. I am confident that a lot of times I am able to speak to users in a way that they understand, but a lot of times my stakeholders don't agree with that. And being a content designer, you run into things where um, everyone's thinking that they're writers, so everyone feel like they can have a little bit input on what you have to say, but um, where am I going with my thoughts? But uh, one of the things that would be helpful when with content design research is to have data that backs our design decisions. And that's not just, oh, why is this word better, but rather, why is this flow better? Why is the structure from a storytelling perspective better? So I'll get there. I'm like doing my little learnings on the side, trying to learn about different research methods beyond A/B testing because it can only go so far. And like, how do people scan, and where do I position? Like, I would love to be sitting in a room with eye tracking softwares one day, and just see how people scan my content, because I know for a fact that they don't read word by word. Like, I would really appreciate it if they do, but I'm pretty confident that they don't. So if they scan in a certain way, F-shaped pattern or whatever that is, how can I put the most important information in the place that they are more likely to scan? Things like that. Um, but yeah, hopefully it'll come soon. But I'm seeing chatters about emojis. Yeah, thumbs ups can be super passive aggressive. It even means the middle finger in certain markets. So like uh, that's super tricky too. Um, and skin tone when it comes to emojis means a lot too. The default yellow emoji is not necessarily the most neutral emoji. And if you're trying to communicate a user who's a person of color and then you use the skin tone that's incorrect, that's no bueno. Next question. Thank you so much for the questions. I feel so validated. I was expecting like no one to show up and just like cry afterwards because no one's showing up. But thank you for showing up. Okay, what's your relationship with marketing like, and how do you keep the brand voice consistent? So at my workplace, which is, I would say, pretty consistent with my work experience so far, um, marketing comes in place when there are new things happening. So whether that's a new feature or whether we need to determine the value proposition of this new thing. I think marketing partners come in place really well when it comes to identifying the value propositions in collaboration with content design. So I work with marketing a lot on determining, yeah, the value propositions and our strategy when it comes to launching this new feature. Uh, Sometimes we work together on naming a new feature too. I think marketing comes with a very good lens from their perspective, and then content design comes from a more task based lens, and in collaboration coming up with a name that works for our users. And then how do you keep the brand voice consistent? uh, it's a lot of negotiation and then there's a lot about documenting things and governance, which can be really challenging at times. But if you can get ahead of it by establishing your brand guide, your writing guidelines, and having everyone align on it, is going to save you so much headache trying to call out people when there are inconsistencies later down the road. We have this thing called I think the style console at work, where if people have questions about certain things, like, can we abbreviate buy one get one free to BOGO, because our app has really limited amount of space, and if we really spell it out, it's going to take up so much space where some of the design components will just not fit. So the people will come in together, bringing their perspective, and then we come up with a solution, and we document that final decision into our style guide. So that's one of the things that I get to do as a content designer, which is always super fun. People coming in like, "Hey, like, we never talked about this. Can we talk a little bit about that?" But yeah, if you're curious about the BOGO decision, I think we decided that for US markets, we're gonna go ahead with the abbreviation to save a little character space. But for other markets where BOGO is not so much of a concept, we're still gonna be able. We're still gonna spell it out and find alternative spaces where we can explain things better. Next question: how did you get into content design? And is content design the same as a UX UI design? I do have a YouTube video in going into a bit more details about how I got into content design and what is content design. I think that was the two videos I wanted to make the most when I first started my YouTube channel, because so many people asked me about that. And then I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a broken record repeating myself. But if I make a video, I could just send the video to them. So if you check out my YouTube channel, you'll be able to see it. But I'll give you a TLDR version. I'd say content design and UX UI design are both disciplines within the design umbrella. Content design focuses more on the language and the content pieces helping people navigate through the user journey, where UX design can focus a bit more on the interaction of it. They also think about user flows and aspects of that, but I would say language and words and strategy are some of the things that make content designers a little different from UX designers. But we collaborate together. We work in Figma together. We complain together too at places. The way I got into content design was completely by accident. Like I mentioned earlier, I was working in marketing. I thought I was going to do marketing because I wanted to be realistic about um, my career choice. And why I was in grad school, a lot of my colleagues, not colleagues, a lot of my classmates were on the path of becoming UX designers. So during the summer when we don't have classes, they'll be working on their portfolio pieces and they'll hang out, gather, and do all that. Um, and I was feeling like a huge sense of FOMO, where like I feel like I was not doing anything with my time, but then at the same time I didn't really want to get into UX design because I felt like it was such a big leap from marketing where I wanted to be. Um, so so then one of my classmates were like, "Hey, have you checked out like UX writing?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And she's like, "We're gonna do this like 15-day UX writing challenge, and you should check it out too." So I checked it out so that I can be a part of something because FOMO is real. And I did it. I had really great responses, even though I was so nerve wracked about posting it. Because part of it is, yeah, part of the challenge is you get the prompt from the email, and then you write it, and then you post it into a Facebook community. And the Facebook community has a bunch of, aspiring content designers and then existing content designers. So I was super intimidated about that. And once I posted, I like put it away and went to bed immediately. And I woke up the following morning and I got so many notifications and everyone's like, "This is great. This is awesome." And then I'm like, for once in my life, like I'm good at something. Heck yeah. um, so it kind of planted the seed in my head that this could be something I can do. But at that time, there's no content design internships. There's no clear career path on becoming a content designer. So I didn't think too much about it until one day one of our alum posted about a 3-month contract position at Microsoft doing content design. And I contemplated for almost a week thinking about it because I had huge imposter syndrome. I didn't think I was good enough. But I was working at a PR agency. I was very unhappy about my internship. So I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm going to apply. And I told my alum about it too. I'm like, hey, I just applied for this position. She sent in a really good recommendation to the hiring manager. And next thing you know, I'm like interviewing at Microsoft. I still didn't think too much about it because on the job description, it said that the job required 10 plus years of experience. And I had zero. And I was just trying to use that opportunity as a bragging rights later to my friends that I went inside a large tech company and I interviewed. But next thing you know, I got the job. I ended up staying at Microsoft for almost 2 years, and then I moved on to the role I have right now. which I can't talk about. um, but yeah, I think we're a little over time, and I think the questions are winding down. Um, Thank you so much for tuning in today. And, once again, I want to make sure that the ones who are still here know that this AMA, this Ask Me Anything, is part of a series of live stream this week where designers from all disciplines and all kinds of companies coming together to fundraise for LA's wildfire recovery. So if you haven't checked it out already, please check out the GoFundMe link in the description. Even small contributions means a lot, and it can make a huge difference to the communities affected. If you enjoyed today's session, feel free to follow me on social media. I am Yvonne Content Design on YouTube, and then at Yvonne.ux on Instagram and TikTok if it still exists after January 19th. We'll see. But yeah, I make YouTube videos to share career insights about, content design, being in tech, and my life as, I don't know, an immigrant in America. But thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed answering your questions, seeing your questions, and having interactions with all of you. Thank you so much for the organizers for making this happen and including me as part of this. I hope you have a wonderful day. And now I'm going to panically look for the button in a very subtle way where I can end the stream without making it awkward. Anyways, have a good one, y'all. Bye.